was hunted down like a rabid dog. He was shot in the street. He was racially profiled. Mr. Zimmerman should be arrested immediately for his own safety.
This video, enhanced exclusively for ABC News, shows even more clearly the first moments after George Zimmerman arrived at the Sanford Police Department just after shooting Trayvon Martin. The entire raw video, obtained by ABC News and clarified by Forensic Protection, Inc., sharpens the video from this to this. The sharper video now appearing to show some form of mark or gash on the back of Zimmerman's head. A police report from that night describes blood on the back of his head and his nose.
Enhanced videos are used by law enforcement to identify individuals, injuries. Well, what you're able to see in this enhanced video is marks on the back of Mr. Zimmerman's head.
Overnight, Orlando station WKMG obtained dispatch audio as emergency responders canceled a second ambulance called to take Zimmerman to the hospital.
Cancel second rescue.
One of Zimmerman's neighbors is telling us that looks can be deceiving here. He says he's tired of Zimmerman being portrayed as the bad guy, and he tells Fox TV's Jennifer Bisram that everybody needs to let the justice system take its course before rushing to judgment.
I saw George. He was banged up. He had two big bandages that weren't flat. It looked like had a bump on them.
This neighbor, who didn't want us to show his face, is talking for the first time about what he saw on George Zimmerman's face less than 24 hours after Zimmerman shot and killed Trayvon Martin.
I see him have a big bandage on his nose and his nose swollen. On the side where his eyes were at, it was swollen.
He shows us exactly where on this picture.
I seen the bandage right here. There's a big bandage, and this side of his nose and this side of his nose was swollen.
The surveillance video released by Sanford Police of Zimmerman when he was brought in for questioning after the shooting. Bruises and bandages aren't visible, but you can see an officer looking at the back of his head.
You get into a fight. You don't show bruises that day. You show them the next day.
He claimed self-defense. What's your response to that?
I think something happened that night where he had to defend himself. 10 being the worst, it was about roughly 7 or 8.
His thoughts on this 911 call made on February 26th, Zimmerman screaming for help.
They're sending.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your attitude on it? You feel this because?
I hear his voice every single day. I talk to him every single day.
So why did he decide to speak out tonight?
I've been thinking it morning, noon, and night. You know, ever since I seen the bandages on him.
Do you think no matter what that anyone has a right to pull a trigger, though?
I think somebody has the right to pull the trigger if their life is on the line.
He believes Zimmerman was defending his life, and that's why he says he's defending Zimmerman now.
Do you not think there's races involved here?
I don't think racism is involved at all, because I seen black folks, African Americans, come to George's house.
From where George's vehicle was, there's a sidewalk that goes to the next street over.
Okay.
Off of that sidewalk, there's another sidewalk that goes between two rows of townhomes. It's my understanding that Trayvon went between the two rows of townhomes, and George was walking down the main sidewalk to see if he could see where Trayvon was going. He continued walking down that sidewalk to the next street. He wanted an address. All he could see was the back of the townhomes, and he could not see an address. So he asked the dispatcher to have the responding unit call him, and he could tell him the address. So he walked down to the end of the street, to the end of the sidewalk to the next street to get an address. He did not know at that time where Trayvon Martin had gone. As he was walking back to his vehicle, there was a sidewalk that goes to his left. And Trayvon came from that area where the sidewalks meet. He asked my son if he had a problem. And George said, "No, I don't have a problem." Trayvon said, "Well, you do now." He punched him in the face, broke his nose, knocked him to the sidewalk, and got on him and started beating him.
Well, so he was walking back to the car, is what you're saying. Trayvon confronted him. He reached for his cell phone, and Trayvon, this is confirmed, his nose was broken. And is it true that he had lacerations and injuries to the back of his head, sir?
Yes, sir, he did.
Okay, and his nose was broken that night, but he denied medical care, although he was treated at the scene. Is that true, too?
I believe the medics cleaned him up at the scene. Following that, the police took him to the police station for several hours.
All right, walk us through. First of all, did he stop when the dispatcher said stop? And how did we get to the point where the shot was fired? Explain that part of this, because that's obviously the key moment in this thing.
When the dispatcher said, "We no longer need you to do that," and George acknowledged, okay, he no longer knew where Trayvon was. So he continued walking down the sidewalk directly in front of him to the next street to get an address. He got an address. He was walking back to his vehicle. Trayvon came from his left side, asked him, did he have a problem? George said no. At that point, Trayvon said, "Well, you do now." He punched him in the nose, again knocked him to the concrete, and started beating him. George was there yelling for help for at least 40 seconds. It's clearly him on the tape. There's absolutely no doubt about who it is. A neighbor came, saw what was happening, saw George being beaten, heard George yelling for help, and the neighbor said he was calling 911, and that's what he went inside and did.
And Ed, how do you know, sir, that was your son on the 911 tape? I know there's been conflicting reports about this.
Well, when I first heard, I heard the Martin family say that was their son, and I thought, well, they're a grieving family, and maybe the tapes were not too good. But then when I heard the actual recording, me, my family, friends, everybody knows absolutely that's George.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we're going to